for joining us on the news around the world. I am Aditoke Olaleye, and on the sign language corner is Sakirat Ogundeji. The People's Democratic Party, PDP, has announced that it will hold its 103rd National Executive Committee NEC meeting on Monday, 4th of May 2026. This was made known in a notice posted on the party's official X handle on Saturday. According to the notice, the meeting is set to hold by 2 p.m. The notice added that in accordance with the PDP constitution, attendance to the 103rd meeting is strictly for statutory members of the National Executive Committee. Those expected at the meeting include PDP state governors, members of the National Assembly from the PDP caucus, members of the Board of Trustees, BOT, state chairmen, national ex-official members, former members of the National Working Committee, NWC, former governors, principal officers of the National Assembly, as well as other designated stakeholders and NEC members. Meanwhile, the Bauchi State Governor, Bala Mohammed, has officially announced his defection to the Allied People's Movement, APN, along with members of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, loyal to the Tanimu Turaki-led executives. Mohammed announced the defection at the Bauchi Government House on Saturday, flanked by the APM National Chairman Yusuf Dantale and other party and government officials. The Bauchi governor stated that after extensive consultation, he and other defectors took a firm and strategic decision to join the Allied People's Movement, APN. He said the move was guided by one overriding objective, which he said is to secure victory in both states and continue to serve the people with utmost integrity, effectively mobilize the supporters and present a coherent and credible alternative to the people. The governor, however, thanked the PDP, the platform under which he was elected a governor in 2019 and re-elected in 2023, for the important role it has played in their collective political journey. Troops of the Joint Task Force Northeast Operation Adenkai said that they have rescued 6 abducted women, including children, and have reunited them with the family members in Ngoshi Community, Gosa local government area of Borno State. A statement by the Media Information Officer Headquarters, Joint Task Force Northeast, Operation Adenkai, Lieutenant Colonel Sani Uba, noted that the rescue operation followed sustained offensive actions. According to the statement, acting on credible intelligence, troops of the Operation Adenkai, while returning from an overnight offensive operation in the early hours of Friday, intercepted and rescued the 6 women and children around Amuda. Preliminary debriefings revealed that they were among residents abducted during the terrorist attack on Ngoshi Community on the 3rd March 2026 and had been held in captivity at a terrorist enclave in the Gava before escaping. During the rescue, the troops said they came under sporadic enemy fire as fleeing terrorists attempted to pursue the escapees. The statement added that following the rescue, the victims were immediately administered first aid and medical checks at a military facility before being formally handed over to community authorities. In a related development, a young woman abducted in Kasuwan Magini, Kajuru local government area of Kaduna State has regained her freedom after spending about 5 months in captivity. The victim was later confirmed pregnant following a medical examination. A former media aide to the late Kaduna State Governor Patrick Yakowa, Mr. Ruben Buhari, disclosed this in a post shared on his verified Facebook page. According to him, the victim was among 4 persons kidnapped when armed men invaded a residence where she had been caring for her critically ill mother. He explained that the attackers whisked the victim into the bush where they were held for several months under harsh conditions until ransom was paid for their release. He stated that the woman arrived at the hospital in a very weak state and required immediate stabilization, including a blood transfusion, before further treatment could commence. He described the experience as deeply traumatic, stating that many aspects of what victims face in captivity are often too distressing to recount in full. Meanwhile, at least 3 police officers have been killed and 2 others injured after suspected terrorists attacked the police mobile force camp in Tenubu community, Kekayama local government area of Kwara State. The attack, which occurred in the early hours of Saturday, caused panic in the Algerian community as residents fled their homes following heavy gunfire. Sources said the assailants arrived in large numbers and launched a surprise attack on the police camp, overpowering officers on duty before killing 3 and injuring 2 others. The spokesperson for the Kwara State Police Command, Aditun Ejire Adeyemi, confirmed the incident. The latest attack highlights the continued insecurity in parts of the Kayama local government area, where armed groups have repeatedly targeted communities and security formations. In a related development, more than a dozen girls and women have been abducted by suspected bandits in Kaduna State. The incident occurred on Friday at about 9:45 p.m. at the Sabunlayi community in Bakuri local government area. According to reports, the actual number of persons abducted was said to be 15 or more, including little infants that were whisked away along with their mothers. It was gathered that the bandits stormed the community and headed straight to a couple of households belonging to a man simply identified as Malam Aliyu and his younger brother. A source from the area said the attackers operated swiftly, rounded up their victims and moved them into the forest close to the area. The source said efforts were made by local security operatives to rescue the victims, but their efforts was to no avail. Some of the community members who lamented over the security situation in their community called on government and security agencies to come to their aid in addressing the problem. However, the National Orientation Agency, NOA, has called on Nigerians to take active responsibility in addressing insecurity and promoting unity across the country. The Director General of the agency, Lanre Issa Onilu, speaking on the renewed national security concerns, said citizens must stop being passive observers. Issa Onilu added that citizens should instead support government efforts through vigilance, timely information sharing, and community cooperation. He also warned against divisive rhetoric and indifference, noting that such attitudes continue to worsen tensions in several parts of the country. NOA further urged traditional rulers, religious leaders, youth groups, and civil society organizations to intensify sensitization efforts aimed at promoting peace, tolerance, and national cohesion. Operatives of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, have raided several drug joints across the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, arresting 132 suspects and recovering over 220 kilograms of illicit substances. According to a statement by the agency's Director of Media and Advocacy, Femi Babafemi, the arrest and recovery were recorded in a 2-week coordinated operation. Babafemi said the raids, which were carried out between 11th and 25th April 2026, targeted major drug hotspots following weeks of intelligence gathering and surveillance. He said the raids were conducted by operatives of his Directorate of Operation and General Investigation in collaboration with the FCT Strategic Command. Babafemi added that the operation was aimed at dismantling illicit drug hubs, contributing to substance abuse, trafficking, and other related criminal activities. We shall now take a short commercial break. Please stay with us.
My skin is my identity, my strength. It's unique and deserves care made specially for me. New Nivea Radiant and Beauty Even Glow, enriched with 95% pure vitamin C and pulp extract. For visibly radiant and even-toned skin in just 2 weeks. New Nivea Radiant and Beauty Even Glow, for your shade of beautiful.
Welcome back. Stakeholders from Okeogun Zone of Oyo State have renewed calls for unity and strategic investment to unlock the region's vast economic potential. This formed the focus of a public lecture organized by the National Association of Shaki Elite Ibadan chapter. BCOS reporter Debai Abdurrafi reports.
It was an assembly of policymakers, traditional rulers, academics, and professionals of Okeogun extraction converging in Ibadan to deliberate on pathways to sustainable development in the region. Delivering his remarks, the Oyo State Deputy Governor, Barrister Bayo Lawal, described Okeogun as the custodian of abundant food and mineral resources in the state, noting that the region holds immense potential for economic growth and tourism. He emphasized that Okeogun could become a focal point of development given its rich natural endowments, but lamented the persistent division along political and religious lines, which he said must be addressed to achieve meaningful progress. The Deputy Governor also charged traditional rulers in the region to strengthen security collaboration with the state government, while urging residents to support ongoing efforts to attract investment in tourism and mining. He disclosed that the state government is considering transforming the Amotekun Corps into a state police structure to tackle insecurity, adding that 2 aircraft have been acquired to enhance rapid response, particularly in Okeogun and the Barapa areas.
Currently, we have acquired 2 surveillance aircraft, which will be commissioned very, very shortly. Our aircraft mainly fún Zakani, Ogbomoso, Okeogun, Ibarapa. So these 2 aircrafts that Oyo State government has procured will be deployed for security activities along that belt.
Chairman of the occasion, Professor Layi Egunjobi tasked over 200 indigenous associations in Okeogun to leverage their comparative advantages for the collective development of the region. In his remarks, the Okere of Shaki, Oba Khalid Olabisi Oyedepo III, urged indigenes to prioritize the growth of Shaki land in whatever positions they occupy, commending individuals who have continued to promote the area's development.
Okeogun is the least developed part of Oyo State, but we need to encourage ourselves to develop with ourselves, and make sure that we are committed to its development. So by and large, just to come here and encourage them.
Delivering the 2026 public lecture titled Unlocking Okeogun Economic Potentials for Regional Advancement and Statewide Prosperity, Professor Shifau Adejumo highlighted the need to modernize agriculture through mechanization and value addition to maximize profitability. She also advocated reorientation and skill development in mining to harness the region's vast solid mineral deposits, while promoting cultural tourism and local enterprise as viable drivers of economic growth.
And development partners, and every one of us, by improving the infrastructure, promoting mechanized agriculture, supporting small and medium-scale enterprises, investing in education and health care of our people, exploring its tourism and solid mineral potential, Okeogun can become a major engine of growth for your state and Nigeria at large.
In a goodwill message, the senator representing Oyo North, Senator Fachai Buhari, called for unity of purpose among stakeholders to secure fair political representation and equitable development for the region. Earlier in his address of welcome, the chairman, National Association of Saki Elite, Ibadan chapter, Dikin Bolaji Okpola, expressed appreciation to the Oyo State Governor, Engineer Seyi Makinde, for revamping and transforming Oisadep to Oisada with the intention of making agriculture a lucrative business in the region and beyond. The event also featured recognition of distinguished sons and daughters of Shaki land who have excelled in their various fields, including the Vice Chancellor, Bowen University, Professor Banji Babalola, Chief Medical Director of Federal Medical Center, Ilarogun, Professor Musliuddin Owonikoko, Deputy Chief Registrar of the Supreme Court of Nigeria, Alhaja Medinat Akoni, and immediate past Chief Judge of Oyo State, retired Justice Munta Abimbola. The event, which had in attendance the National President of NASE, Dr. Aderemi Ayola, among other dignitaries, of Ansaruddin High School, Shaki, who emerged winners of the male category of the Oyo at 50 Secondary School football competition, been honored. Adebayo Abdurafi, BCOS News.
Journalists have again been reminded of the need to exercise caution in their reportage and adhere strictly to professional ethics as the 2027 general elections draw close. NUJ Oyo State Comrade Rotimi Agboluaje gave these words of advice while discussing the topic ahead of World Press Freedom Day, State of the Nigerian Media, on the BCOS television magazine program, Saturday Special. Staff reporter Fidora Afolagboye brings the details.
As World Press Freedom Day approaches, attention is once again focused on Nigeria's media landscape amid concerns over journalist safety, political interference, and the challenge of sustaining press independence in a dynamic democratic environment. Speaking on BCOS Saturday Special, the chairman of Nigeria Union of Journalists, Oyo State Council, Comrade Akim Abbas, described press freedom in Nigeria as relatively fair compared to some other countries, noting gradual progress in the media space. He, however, identified persistent challenges, including harassment, intimidation, and poor remuneration of journalists, although he noted that such incidents are less pronounced when compared globally.
You can still compare the media landscape that we have today with that of the time the likes of Dele Giwa were murdered. You cannot compare it. Every day we keep improving, and we have moved away from the era of Decree 2, Decree Keneko. Yes, now we have journalists that can go out. One thing I know is, as a journalist, that adhere strictly to ethical standards. I still don't believe you can be easily intimidated or humiliated these days. But save for some issues, because when we have the advent of all this new media, social media and the likes, I think those ones have come to further put more problem and more pressure on the.
Also speaking, the Secretary of the Correspondence Chapel, NUJ Oyo State, Comrade Rotimi Agboluaje, observed that while the Nigerian press may not enjoy absolute freedom, it still compares favorably with some countries, though there is room for improvement. He emphasized that poor remuneration remains a major concern, discouraging many practitioners despite the risk and demands associated with the profession.
The first one is the remuneration, poor remuneration. Even some correspondents are not earning salary. Even those that earn salary, the salary does not come as at when due. Even the one that comes as at when due, then the salary cannot take them to the bus stop, let alone taking them home. By the time you convert what a journalist earn in this country, you realize that we earn nothing.
Both speakers reiterated that the Nigerian Union of Journalists remains committed to advocating improved welfare for media practitioners in Oyo State. They added that the union is also prioritizing capacity building and empowerment initiatives to equip journalists for effective and ethical professional practice. Fidora Afolagboye, BCOS News.
The employment landscape is rapidly evolving as remote work becomes increasingly prevalent across diverse sectors, evolving from an alternative setup to a mainstream working method. BCOS reporter Fidora Afolagboye explored the growth of remote work and its influence on the traditional employment.
The post-pandemic era has seen technological advancements and cultural shifts in the workplace, fundamentally altering how work is conducted today. Numerous organizations now acknowledge that employees can maintain productivity without being physically present in an office, resulting in broader implementation of remote and hybrid work models. Despite progress, challenges including poor internet access, limited face-to-face communication, and concerns regarding job stability remain. In spite of these concerns, experts foresee a continued growth in remote and hybrid work models, which will have a profound impact on shaping the future of employment. In an interview with BCOS News, entrepreneur Olubenga Ogunbowale stated that roles heavily reliant on computer-based tasks are better suited for remote work, highlighting the need for organizations to adapt to the swift pace of change characteristic of 2026.
For me, it's just adaptation. You have to adapt. And in terms of, we didn't do their job, they're working remotely, they have deliverables. So the question is, are they delivering on what they're supposed to deliver on? If they are, then you might be able to make one or two accommodations, especially for people that maybe live far away.
Mr. Olubenga noted that while talent is widely distributed, opportunities are not, urging employers to adopt more flexible work arrangements rather than rely solely on on-site operations. He also advised aspiring business owners to begin with on-site operations and transition to remote work as they grow, emphasizing that relationships, collaboration, and interpersonal interaction remain crucial, especially in the early stages of building a business.
My advice would be that for people who are just starting their career, you are way better off starting with on-site. If you've advanced in your career, maybe you spent about 5 to 10 years working, right? It's easier for you to go remote. But if you start with remote, it's very difficult for you to make some certain connections. There's some friendships and some relationships, professional ones, that are difficult to forge when you work remotely. Working remotely is, you won't essentially be able to forge very deep relationships when you're working remotely compared to when you're working on site and you're coming into the building, you're seeing people's faces, you're interacting, you're walking along the road. A lot of side discussions can happen, like when you're walking along the road or during your break. So you have opportunities, multiple opportunities to forge deeper bonds when you're working on site. That cannot happen when you're working remotely.
Two remote workers shared their experiences, highlighting what motivated their transition from formal employment to remote work, as well as the key advantages and challenges they face compared to office-based roles.
What are the advantages and challenges are faced working remotely compared to traditional 9 to 5? I would say freedom. That's keyword, freedom. The freedom of not just being able to wake up when I want, or the freedom to be able to do whenever I want. No, that freedom to work when I am at my best. So I do not find myself working by the clock or working when I'm not the most productive. Remote work allows me to work when I am the most productive. So it means when I work remotely, I bring more value to the organization.
What motivated me to transition from the traditional office-based work to remote work is my love for my personal space. I have always loved my personal space. I love being on my own. I love relating with people, but I cherish my personal space. It just gives me the opportunity to be able to think and reflect on a lot of things. So when I found out that I could work from home, I'm still doing the same kind of job, but doing it from my house, I decided to transition into that.
Remote work is steadily redefining the workplace, offering flexibility and broader opportunities while challenging long-established structures. As organizations continue to adjust, the future of work will depend on how effectively both systems are balanced to meet evolving demands. Fidora Afolagboye, BCOS News.
In recent times, conversations around moral decadence have resurfaced, particularly following incidents circulating on social media where young people react aggressively to correction, sometimes even from adults outside their immediate families. What was once considered a normal part of communal life, where elders could guide and caution younger individuals, is now increasingly met with resistance, hostility, and in some cases, outright disrespect. BCOS correspondent Temitope Uguleye reports.
Moral decadence has become a growing concern in today's society, especially among young people whose behavior is often seen as reflecting a decline in respect for authority, elders, and established social values. One of the most noticeable trends is the increasing tendency of some youths to respond negatively when corrected by adults outside their homes, particularly on issues such as dressing, public conduct, and general attitude. In the past, child upbringing was largely a collective responsibility, with members of the community playing active roles in instilling discipline and moral values. Today, however, this shared responsibility is gradually eroding as some youths now view correction from non-parents as interference, often reacting with hostility or disrespect. A counseling psychologist, Professor Adebayo Oluwole, notes that the situation can be partly attributed to generational gaps, where differences in upbringing and exposure make it difficult for both young people and adults to understand each other's perspectives.
The main thrust of the issue is that many parents these days put so much pressure on the children and they want them to change drastically, whereas these children have been left untrained for years. So it's difficult to malleate, or it's difficult to change their mindset. And some of them are into hooliganism, they are into rebelliousness due to drug exposure. So when people are under influence of drugs, it will be very difficult for them to reason clearly, and for that reason, they may misbehave.
According to him, exposure to drug abuse and substance use further complicates the issue as it affects clear reasoning and may lead to irrational behavior. He adds that young people exposed to domestic violence at an early age may begin to see aggression as normal, which can manifest in their interactions with others.
The best laboratory in the world to make mistakes and correct yourself is from home. But when the home is not settled, when the adults in the home, they are violators of rules and regulations, then how are we going to properly mentor the young ones in our society? Because we all put the blame on government for anything that go wrong, but in what way are we doing the right and appropriate thing?
Professor Oluwole stresses that moral training begins at home, noting that when the family structure is unstable and adults fail to model discipline and good values, it becomes increasingly difficult to guide the younger generation effectively.
Dignitaries, families, members and admirers gathered in Ibadan to honor the memory of a political icon, late Mama Asma'u Odunola Alabi, 60 years after her passing. The memorial lecture celebrated her enduring legacy as a trailblazing woman leader in pre-independence Nigeria. BCOS reporter Folashade Akintola has details of the event which took place at the Mapo Hall, Ibadan.
6 decades after her demise, the name Mama Asma'u Odunola Alabi continued to echo in the political history of Ibadan and Nigeria at large. Widely regarded as a lioness of pre-independence politics, she was the pioneer woman leader of NCNC in Ibadan and in the 90s. Under the leadership of the late Alhaji Adegoke Adelabu, popularly known as Benkele Mens, the memorial lecture team, the lioness of pre-independence Nigeria, brought together stakeholders to reflect on her life, contributions, and enduring legacy. Speaking on behalf of the Olubadan of Ibadan land, Oba Rasheed Adewolu Ladoja, Prince Abiola Ladoja, urged women to remain active contributors to nation building through impactful and supportive role.
Ìyá ìkà jẹ́ ní èrè òṣèlú nìkan náà ti ń sọ ní gbogbo ń dá ń sọ yìí. pé bí màmá ṣe jẹ woman leader máa ṣe jẹ bá máa ṣe dàgbọn níbikíbi tọkọ wá bá wà ẹjẹ àtìlẹ́yìn torí lọ́jọ́ ọ̀la wọn sọ kankan pa àtìbá náà nǹkan rí wọn sì máa sọ nípa wa.
Delivering keynote address, Mr. Yinka Adelabu underscores the indispensable role of women in shaping prosperous society, noting that no generation of great men can emerge without the influence of the great women. He further highlighted the intuitive strength of women, encouraging them to harness it for effective leadership and societal transformation.
There can never be a generation of great men without a generation of great women. It was because of greatness of Mama Asma'u Odunola Alabi, whom we are celebrating today, that the inspiration for the greatness of Adebayo Labu was able to come up. So women in politics today, or women in Nigerian society generally, should be the pillar behind the man and perform their role for the greatness of this nation.
Reflecting on her life beyond politics, the honoree's first grandson, the Abese Olubadan Oloye Lekan Alabi, described Mama Asmiu as courageous, patient and industrious, with a legacy that continued to inspire generations.
She was the first Yasuna of Ekene Ajengbe Mosque, Ibadan. She was the general midwife for the whole of Ajengbe area. She was a counselor, role model. She was a textile dealer who had a shop at the railway, Lalupon railway station in the 1940s.
Other grandchildren also paid glowing tributes, portraying her as a disciplined, neat, trustworthy, and hardworking values they say continue to shape their lives.
We did not meet Mama, but what we met on ground is neatness, trust, discipline, and industrious.
In fact, honesty, morality, straightforwardness, aspiration for knowledge, skills, motivational speaking, all of these, mention them, are some of the things we inherited from Mama.
Beyond her political exploits, Mama Asma'u Odunola Alabi was a successful textile merchant, the Iyadini of Ekewi Ajengbe Mosque in Ibadan. She passed away on May 2nd, 1996, at the age of 75. Folashade Akintola, BCOS News.
President Bola Tinubu has charged the Nigerian relay team to make the country proud as they compete in the 8th edition of the World Athletics Relay Championship, which begins today at the National Stadium in Gaborone, Botswana. The game will feature 743 athletes from 40 countries in attendance. In a statement by Chairman, Media Committee of the Athletics Federation of Nigeria, AFN, Maxwell Kumoye, on Saturday, the Director General of the National Sports Commission, Bukola Olopade, delivered a message of support from President Bola Tinubu, urging the Team Nigeria to compete with pride and determination. He further highlighted the significance of the relays within Nigeria's sporting culture, stating that it is a qualifier for the World Championship. Team Nigeria faces stern early test at the championship as they line up against some of the world's strongest relay nations across multiple events, with qualification sports for the major global championship hanging and staring them in the face. According to the official timetable, the mixed 4x400 heats are scheduled for the afternoon session on day one, placing Nigeria's race among early decisive contests of the competition. Drawn in a loaded heat that includes the Netherlands, Jamaica, Poland, China, Japan, and Canada, Nigeria will need a near-flawless performance to secure progression. Only the top two teams in each heat, alongside the two fastest non-automatic qualifiers, will advance to the final and seal places at the 2027 World Championship. Let's join Boluwaji Ogumola for the rest of the sport news.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us on the sports segment of the news. I am Boluwaji Ogumola. Enyimba forward Ezekiel Edidiong has called for fan support ahead of the Nigeria Premier Football League clash against Remo Stars. The People's Elephant will be up against the reigning MPFL champions, Remo Stars, in a promising encounter in Aba on Sunday. Edidiong said they will aim for the maximum points against the Sky Blue Stars. Recall that Edidiong was on the books of Remo Stars during the 2022-2023 NPFL season. Edidiong admitted that he is emotional with the memories, but expressed his focus on ensuring Enyimba secured the victory ahead of his former side. Manchester City boss Pep Guardiola insists his club cannot use their grueling schedule as an excuse if they fail to win the Premier League title this season. Guardiola's second-place side are 3 points behind leaders Arsenal heading into the final weeks of the season. But City's title bid could be hampered by a fixture pile-up after their games against Crystal Palace and Bournemouth were given new dates, either side of the FA Cup final against Chelsea on May 16. Those matches needed to be moved because of City's progress in both domestic cups, but the new schedule means they need to play 3 times in the space of 7 days from May 13 to 19. The League Cup winners' title charge concludes against Aston Villa on May 24. City were reportedly unhappy when the fixtures were confirmed, particularly because they felt the Palace game, originally slated for March, could have been rearranged earlier. But Pep Guardiola has accepted the situation as an inevitable consequence of being successful in English football. Finally, from the world of basketball, Marktown Flyers' hopes of reaching the Basketball Africa League playoffs suffered a major setback on Friday after an 86-77 points defeat to Club Africain left the Nigerian side on the brink of elimination with 1 game remaining. The loss marks a 3rd consecutive defeat for the Nigerian side, who have now fallen to a 1-3 record in the Sahara Conference and sit 5th in the standings, outside the top 4 required to qualify for the Kigali playoffs. The result leaves Marktown Flyers in 5th place in the Sahara Conference. Marktown face AS Ville Dakar in their last game on Sunday by 3 p.m. Nigerian time at the Prince Moulay Abdullah Sports Complex, Rabat, Morocco. And that's sports this evening. Thanks for watching.
On the foreign scene, Mali's army and its Russian mercenary allies surrendered a strategic northern military stronghold to armed rebels as Tuareg separationists and jihadists wage a unified front to bring down the country's junta. The West African nation is facing a critical security situation following large-scale attacks last weekend on various junta positions by the Tuareg-dominated FLA and Al-Qaeda-linked Chinim groups. During those assaults, the rebels killed Mali's defense minister and took the crucial northern town of Kidal. An official from the FLA and the Azawad Liberation Front told newsmen that on Friday, forces from Mali's key Tessalit super camp near the Algerian border surrendered the military installation and scattered southward. The retreat comes 1 day after JIM, the Group for the Support of Islam and Muslims, began a road blockade of the capital Bamako, as only people already in the city were allowed to leave. A local elected official additionally confirmed to newsmen that the Russians had abandoned their position there. We will now join Folashade Akintola for the update on the Malian story and other foreign news.
A prosecutor at a military tribunal near the capital, Bamako, said in a statement that 5 suspects had been identified, including 3 active duty soldiers, 1 retired person, and a soldier who was killed in fighting near a Bamako army base. The coordinated assault on the morning of April 25 struck at the heart of the West African country's military government, which took power after coups in 2020 and 2021. The defense minister was killed, and Russian forces backing the government were forced out of the northern town of Kidal, which Al-Qaeda-linked Jama'a Nusra al-Islam wal-Muslimin, JNIM, and Tuareg separatists of the Liberation Front for Azawad, FLA, now control. The violence has set off fighting across Mali's vast desert town, raising the prospect of significant gains by armed groups that have shown an increasing willingness to strike neighboring countries. And Israel has launched multiple strikes across southern Lebanon, killing at least 10 people in further violations of the ceasefire declared 2 weeks ago. Lebanon's Ministry of Health said the latest wave of attacks on Saturday increased the total recorded over the previous 24 hours to 41. The overall death toll since March 2 is 2,659, with 8,183 injured. An earlier attack on a car in the village of Kefar Dajjal killed 2 people. 3 others were killed when a home was hit in the village of Luazei. A strike on the village of Shukin killed 2 people. Israeli forces carried out an airstrike near Al-Quds roundabout in the city of Nabieti, and warplanes attacked the town of Sidi Queen in Tyre district. Israel continues to violate the ceasefire that began on April 17 and was later extended until midday. Israel claims its attacks targeted the pro-Iran Lebanese group Hezbollah, but many of the dead were civilians. Finally, the United States has warned shipping companies they should face sanctions if they pay Iran for safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz. An alert on Friday by the U.S. Office of Foreign Assets Control, OFAC, warned U.S. persons and companies were generally banned from paying Iranian government entities, and non-U.S. persons may risk exposure to sanctions if they pay. Iran has severely limited traffic through the strait since the war began in February. The U.S. has also enforced a naval blockade on Iranian ports. Iran has called the U.S. interception of ships entering and leaving Iranian ports under the blockade piracy. Tehran says it has collected tolls from ships in order to navigate freely through the strait, with Hamidreza Haji Bababey, Deputy Speaker of Iran's parliament, last week claiming the first toll revenue had been deposited with the country's central bank. Bimbo Akambi, BCOS News.
To end the news around the world, here again are the main points. The People's Democratic Party, PDP, has announced that it will hold its 103rd National Executive Committee NEC meeting on Monday, 4th of May 2026. Stakeholders from Okeogun Zone of Oyo State have renewed calls for unity and strategic investment to unlock the region's vast economic potential. And on the foreign scene, Mali's army and its Russian mercenary allies surrendered a strategic northern military stronghold to armed rebels as Tuareg separatists and jihadists wage a unified front to bring down the country's junta. BCOS website is live. Kindly visit www.bcostv.com. And you can reach us on GoTV, channel 134 and channel 113 on Star Times. Now, before I go, make sure you play safe in everything you do. And that's the end of the news around the world. Thank you.